Jollyville awoke not to the usual raucous symphony of honking horns, squeaky shoes, and the occasional hunk-hunk of a red rubber nose, but to a silence so profound it seemed to swallow the very essence of the town's quirky spirit. The sun peeked cautiously over the horizon, casting long shadows on empty streets that normally thrummed with slapstick chaos and colorful hijinks. Not a single painted face or oversized shoe was in sight. No squirting flowers, no juggling pins, no whoopee cushions, ready to embarrass an unsuspecting passerby. The clown car, that iconic little vehicle that usually sputtered and popped through the town square like a deranged tin can, sat abandoned and silent on the curb, its door ajar as if the occupants had simply vanished into thin air. At the heart of this silence stood Mayor Harold Bumblebee, a man whose perpetually rumpled suit and round glasses seemed as much a part of his identity as his earnest, if clumsy, determination. Harold had never fancied himself a hero, let alone an investigator, but fate had thrust the responsibility squarely on his notepad-clutching hands. His first attempt to rally the townsfolk was less a call to arms and more a slapstick spectacle. As he strode onto the steps of the town hall, his shoe caught an errant whoopee cushion lying in wait, sending him tumbling forward in a graceless sprawl that elicited a mixture of gasps and snickers from the gathering crowd. "Ah well," Harold muttered, adjusting his glasses and dusting himself off. "If nothing else, it's a reminder that we can't take ourselves too seriously, even in a crisis." Nearby, Clara Tumbles, Jollyville's brightest spark and Harold's steadfast assistant, juggled 3 colorful balls with practiced ease. Her bright red hair bounced with each toss, and her scarves fluttered like confetti in the morning breeze. Clara's infectious optimism was a beacon in the fog of uncertainty, a reminder of the joy that once filled the town's streets. She clapped cheerfully as Harold regained his footing, her smile unwavering. "Come on, Harold!" "We'll get to the bottom of this," she said, her voice a melody of hope and determination. Jollyville without clowns is like a pie without whipped cream, a bit sad and terribly incomplete. The townsfolk, a motley crew of shopkeepers, children, and retirees, gathered hesitantly, their faces etched with a blend of confusion and concern. Conversations buzzed like a malfunctioning joy buzzer. Mrs. Penelope Snickerdoodle, owner of the bakery, fretted about the lack of morning laughter that usually accompanied the clown deliveries of cream pies destined for comedic splats. Old Mr. Tiddlywink, the retired schoolteacher, muttered about the town losing its soul. Harold, notebook in hand, began his interviews with a nervous clearing of his throat. Each attempt to question a resident was punctuated by slapstick mishaps. A banana peel strategically placed by an unknown prankster sent him sliding into a pile of rubber chickens, eliciting a chorus of stifled giggles from the crowd. Yet, amidst the chaos, Harold's keen mind caught glimpses of a deeper truth. The clowns were not just entertainers, but the very heartbeat of Jollyville. Sheriff Bill Grumble, a tall, broad-shouldered figure with a permanent frown etched into his face and a crook badge that seemed to reflect his world-weary skepticism, arrived on the scene. His pragmatic nature clashed with Harold's fumbling enthusiasm. "Mayor," he grunted, arms crossed, "this isn't a laughing matter. The town's falling apart, and all you're doing is chasing pratfalls." "Bill," Harold replied, adjusting his glasses once more, "sometimes a pratfall is just what we need to find the truth. Besides," he added with a wry smile, "if I don't keep tripping over clues, how will I know where to look next?" The sheriff shook his head, a ghost of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth despite himself. As the morning wore on, the initial shock gave way to a restless energy. The absence of the clowns left a void filled with whispered rumors and nervous laughter tinged with unease. Somewhere beneath the surface of the town's comedic facade, a question loomed. What cruel joke had silenced Jollyville's jesters? Harold's investigation was just beginning, and if the first steps were any indication, it would be a journey fraught with pratfalls, pie-throwing, and the kind of chaotic humor that only a town like Jollyville could produce. Yet even as he stumbled through his inquiries, a flicker of hope remained. For in a town built on laughter, sometimes the greatest punchline was the one that brought everyone together. Just as Harold was about to call it a morning, a sudden honk echoed from the far end of the street. Heads turned. A single red balloon bobbed into view, tied to a lamppost, swaying gently in the breeze as if waving a silent hello. And with it, a scrap of paper fluttered to the cobblestones below. Harold bent down, his heart pounding with a mixture of dread and curiosity, and picked it up. Scrawled in a looping, playful hand was a single word: "Find me." The game, it seemed, had begun. The morning sun rose over Jollyville with an oddly muted cheerfulness, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Mayor Harold Bumblebee, still struggling to regain his dignity from the banana peel incident mere minutes ago, adjusted his perpetually rumpled suit and peered down at the scattered notes on the pavement. His short, round glasses fogged slightly in the cool air, and he muttered under his breath, "Well, that's one way to slip into an investigation." The streets were peculiarly devoid of the usual cacophony of hunks, whistles, and slapstick music that typically heralded the clown's morning antics. Instead, an eerie silence prevailed, broken only by the occasional bewildered murmur of a passerby or the distant barking of an unusually quiet dog. Harold's notepad was already filling with observations, half of which were crossed out after being scribbled upside down in the moments of his fall.
"Mayor, over here!"
Clara Tumbles called from across the street, her bright red hair a beacon amid the dullness. She was juggling a trio of colorful balls with practiced ease, the rhythmic thud of their catch and release oddly comforting. "You look like you've been in a pie fight." Harold attempted a wry smile but ended up resembling a deflating balloon. "Very funny, Clara. Perhaps a little help with these clues." They began their rounds, starting with the bakery where the first banana peel had claimed its victim. Harold carefully inspected the spot, noting the unusual freshness of the peel despite the early hour. Nearby, a whoopee cushion lay flat and lifeless on a bench, its comic potential sadly deflated. Who puts a banana peel right outside a bakery? Harold puzzled aloud. Apparently, someone with a sense of humor and impeccable timing, Clara quipped, flipping a ball into the air. Their first interview was with Mrs. Giggins, the elderly lady known for her infectious laugh and impeccable memory of clown history. She recounted tales of juggling mishaps and custard pie wars, her eyes twinkling despite the current gloom. The clowns always brought joy. Chaos, yes, but joy, she said, clutching Clara's hand. Without them, the town feels like a dull joke with no punchline. Harold made a note, his pen scratching briskly, but a sudden commotion drew their attention. Sheriff Bill Grumble, tall and broad-shouldered with his permanent frown deepening, approached holding a soggy whoopee cushion. "This was found on the courthouse steps," he grumbled, his voice low and skeptical. "Looks like someone's taking this prank business too far." Harold tried to explain his theory that the clues were part of a larger plan, but the sheriff's dry humor cut through the air. "Or it's just kids messing about. Either way, it's making my job harder." As they spoke, a seltzer bottle exploded nearby, spraying fizzy water over Harold and several bystanders. The shock quickly dissolved into reluctant laughter, the sound of fragile threads stitching the town's fraying nerves. Throughout the day, Harold and Clara gathered testimonies. Some townsfolk were suspicious, casting wary glances around, while others reminisced about the clown's golden days, their voices tinged with both warmth and sorrow. Conflicting stories emerged, claims of secret feuds, strange sightings, and mysterious figures lurking in shadows. By evening, Harold's notepad was a chaotic patchwork of clues and conjectures, much like the town itself. The slapstick evidence danced precariously on the edge of reason, teasing him with the possibility of a deeper mystery beneath the surface latter. As twilight deepened, Harold looked out over the town square, the faint scent of popcorn and paint hanging in the air. The silence was no longer just unsettling. It was a challenge, a call to unravel the tangled web of pranks, fear, and hope "Clara," he said, closing his notepad with a decisive snap, "we were dealing with more than missing clowns. We were facing a puzzle that's part joke, part warning." Clara smiled, juggling once more. "Then let's make sure we don't drop the ball." And with that, they plunged deeper into the mystery, unaware that every step forward was a step into the heart of Jollyville's chaotic soul, where laughter and fear waged their silent, slapstick war. The sun rose over Jollyville with an unusual quietness that felt less like peace and more like the calm before an absurd storm. Mayor Harold Bumblebee shuffled out of his modest office, his rumpled suit creaking in protest as he bent over to retrieve his ever-present notepad from the floor, where it had fallen during a particularly graceless exit the night before. Today's agenda had just taken a sudden, and somewhat ridiculous, turn. The clowns had disappeared. All of them. And now, the town was not only bereft of its cherished cows, but also boiling with whispered accusations and frayed nerves. Harold's first lead came from the strained whispers of two factions of clowns who had recently been at odds. It seemed that beneath the colorful wigs and painted smiles, Jollyville's pranksters were divided. One faction, known as the Seltzer Spritzers, favored classic slapstick and traditional gags squirting flowers, custard pies, and the occasional well-timed banana peel. The other, the Honk Honchos, prided themselves on more avant-garde pranks, exploding joy buzzers, invisible ink, and the artful deflation of whoopee cushions at precisely the wrong moment. As Harold approached the meeting spot, a faded circus tent on the outskirts of town, the cacophony of honking noses, squeaking shoes, and shouted accusations greeted him like an ill-tuned orchestra. He swallowed nervously and stepped between the two groups, his hands raised in what he hoped was a calming gesture, but which inadvertently knocked over a precarious pile of juggling pins. Now, Harold began, his voice cracking slightly. "Let's all take a moment to." A custard pie sailed through the air, landing squarely on the nose of a honk honcho named Binky, whose oversized red shoes slipped on a stray banana peel moments later. Chaos erupted, laughter, shouts, and the unmistakable sound of a whoopee cushion deflating in the middle of an argument filled the tent. Standing to the side, Clara Tumbles watched with a mixture of amusement and concern. Her fiery red hair was tied back with a scarf that fluttered as she moved, juggling a set of bright balls with ease and grace. She stepped forward, catching one ball mid-air and letting the others fall to the ground in a practiced cascade. "Gentlemen," Clara called out, her voice cutting through the din like a well-thrown pie. "We're here because the clowns are missing, not to settle old scores. We need to work together, or we'll all have neither peace nor pie." She flashed a warm smile, and the arguing slowed as all eyes turned toward her. Harold sighed in relief and scribbled a note. "Clara's right. We were all part of this town's spirit, whether we wear oversized shoes or carry seltzer bottles." "Tell me, what do you think happened to the clowns?" The factions exchanged wary glances before Binky spoke, wiping custard from his face. "It's those Spritzers' fault. Always trying to keep traditions alive when the world's moving on. They've been jealous since the Honk Honchos started taking the spotlight." A Spritzer named Jingles retorted, "Jealous? You mean the Honk Honchos are reckless? They don't care about the town's heritage, just their flashy new tricks." Harold scratched his head, the words swirling in a jumble as Clara stepped in again. This rivalry might be more than just clownish antics. It could explain why they've vanished. Someone's playing a bigger game here. Just then, Sheriff Bill Grumble entered, his broad frame casting a long shadow. His permanent frown deepened as he surveyed the mess. "Enough," he growled, voice rough as gravel. "This town needs order, not pie fights and pranks. Harold, you remaking a circus out of the investigation." He tapped his crooked badge for emphasis. Harold winced but nodded, determined to prove his worth. "I'm trying, Sheriff, but this is complicated. The clowns aren't just entertainers, they read the town's heart. And now that heart is missing." As if on cue, a sudden slip sent a clown tumbling into a stack of juggling pins, which toppled like dominoes, narrowly missing the sheriff's boot. The tent erupted in laughter, even from the gruff sheriff himself. Clara clapped her hands. See, even in chaos, there's unity. We just need to find the thread that ties these factions together. Harold nodded, jotting down more notes. We'll start by cataloging their recent disputes and pranks. Maybe someone went too far, or perhaps the disappearance is a prank gone awry. The factions grumbled but agreed to cooperate, at least for now. As they gathered their props and prepared to follow Harold's lead, the mayor felt a flicker of hope amid the slapstick storm. The day's events had proven one thing. Beneath the painted smiles and oversized shoes, the clowns' rivalry was as real as any political feud. But so was their shared love for laughter, and that might just be the key to unraveling the mystery. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the tent, Harold prepared for the next step in the investigation. If the clowns were to be found, it would require navigating the fine line between chaos and camaraderie, and that was a tightrope Harold Bumblebee was determined not to fall from. The question now was who would blink first in this carnival of conflict, and what secrets lay hidden behind the painted masks. The answer, Harold suspected, was going to be messier than a custard pie fight, and he was just the man to get caught in the middle of it. The morning sun crept timidly over the rooftops of Jollyville, casting a golden glow on what should have been an ordinary day. But for Mayor Harold Bumblebee, it was anything but ordinary. His first step out of the mayor's office was immediately greeted by an unexpected and uninvited banana peel, positioned with such malicious precision that Harold had no chance. One moment he was upright, clutching his trusty notepad. The next, he was airborne in a graceless arc, papers fluttering like startled pigeons in a sudden breeze. Blistering custard. Harold muttered, sprawled on the cobblestones, adjusting his short, round glasses as his rumpled suit protested the fall. Around him, a small crowd had gathered not out of concern, but out of barely concealed amusement. The town of Jollyville, after all, was a place where slapstick was practically a civic duty. Clara Tumbles, with her bright red hair and colorful scarves, bustled over, juggling a ball with one hand as she helped Harold to his feet. "Mayor, you really must watch your step. The pranksters have been busy this morning," she said, eyes twinkling with a mix of worry and delight. "If the pranksters are still here," Harold grumbled, "I haven't seen a single clown since dawn." His voice carried the weight of the mystery that had settled over the town like a soggy, whoopee cushion. Before he could ponder more, a sudden sesh erupted behind him. A seltzer bottle, hidden cunningly beneath the town hall's wooden bench, exploded, drenching the tall, broad-shouldered figure of Sheriff Bill Grumble. The sheriff's permanent frown deepened as droplets trickled down his forehead and into his mustache. "Blast it all, Harold!" Bill barked, wiping water from his eyes. "This investigation of yours is turning the town into a circus, and not the funny kind." Harold winced. "I'm doing my best, Bill. But clues are scarce, and the only trail I'm following leads to pratfalls and puddles." "Well, keep your feet on the ground and your antics to a minimum," Bill warned, casting a wary eye around the bustling square, where an array of prank-related disasters seemed to be unfolding in real time. Harold nodded, determined not to let the chaos derail his mission. Yet, as he moved to interview a suspicious-looking baker, his coat pockets suddenly buzzed with a manic energy. A runaway joy buzzer, no doubt planted in some prankster's covert attempt to unsettle him, sent jolts rippling through Harold's body. His arms flailed, and he let out an involuntary yelp that startled the baker into dropping a tray of custard tarts. "By the great red nose of Jollyville!" Harold exclaimed, hastily disconnecting the device as Clara stifled a laugh nearby. "You're a walking calamity, Mayor," she said, her voice a blend of affection and exasperation. "But maybe that's exactly what this town needs right now." The duo pressed on, navigating the labyrinthine streets where banana peels lay in wait like landmines and whoopee cushions deflated with comic timing. Each prank disaster seemed to both slow their progress and provide faint breadcrumbs of truth. A cryptic note stuck to a soggy pie, a hastily scrawled message revealed in the splash of seltzer. These chaotic moments were puzzles in disguise. Meanwhile, Sheriff Bill's patience wore thinner by the minute. He confronted Harold in the mayor's office, which was on the verge of becoming a custard war zone. "Harold, this tomfoolery has to stop. You're returning our dignified town into a slapstick madhouse. We need order, not chaos." "But Bill," Harold replied, his tone deadpan amid the pandemonium, "sometimes it takes a little chaos to find the order, or at least to find the clowns." Their exchange was interrupted by a near miss. A pie flew across the room, narrowly missing the framed town charter. Both men ducked eyes wide as Clara entered, juggling balls in one hand and an armful of prank props in the other. "Maybe the town spirit is trying to communicate," she quipped, setting down her collection. Through pies and pranks. Harold looked around, a slow smile spreading beneath his glasses. "Then let's listen carefully." This chapter of Harold's investigation was a riotous blend of mishaps and revelations. Each slapstick disaster, while frustrating and messy, peeled back layers of the mystery, revealing the phantom prankster's deft hand behind the scenes. Chaos reigned, laughter bubbled beneath the surface of fear, and the lines between friend and foe blurred amid the comedic turmoil. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the merry mayhem, Harold pondered the question that had become the heartbeat of his quest. Could embracing the absurdity of Jollyville's chaos be the key to unraveling the clown conspiracy, or was he merely tumbling headlong into a farcical dead end? Either way, the town was in for a wild ride, banana peels and all. And Harold Bumblebee, clumsy but determined, was right in the thick of it, notebook in hand, ready for whatever prank came next. Jollyville's usually cacophonous town square was unusually quiet that morning, save for the gentle rustling of autumn leaves and the faint tap of shoes against cobblestones. Mayor Harold Bumblebee adjusted his round glasses nervously, tugging at the lapel of his perpetually rumpled suit as he scanned the small crowd gathering near the fountain. At the center of attention stood Millie the Mime, the town's enigmatic entertainer whose silent performances had long been a fixture of Jollyville's street festivals. Millie wore her signature look, stark white face paint contrasted sharply with a black beret perched jauntily atop her head. A horizontally striped black and white shirt stretched over slender limbs, and oversized white gloves that seemed to amplify every gesture. As she began her act, the crowd hushed, entranced by the fluidity and precision of her movements. With a sudden, exaggerated inhale, Millie pressed her palms against invisible walls, fingers splayed wide as if trapped inside an invisible box. Her eyes widened dramatically, conveying a mix of frustration and desperation that rippled through the audience. Harold's pen hovered over his notepad, his mind racing to decode the silent narrative. Beside him, Clara Tumbles bounced lightly on her heels, bright red hair catching the morning light like a bonfire. "She's showing us something," Clara whispered conspiratorially. "But what?" Sheriff Bill grumbled, leaning against the fountain's edge with arms crossed and a permanent frown etched into his rugged face, muttered, "More nonsense from the mime. We need real clues, not silent carrots." Ignoring the sheriff's skepticism, Harold scribbled down his observations. Millie's act shifted subtly. She mimed slipping on a banana peel, arms flailing wildly before catching herself in a near-comic pratfall. The crowd chuckled softly, but Harold's brow furrowed deeper. This wasn't mere entertainment, it was a message. Clara leaned closer, pointing to Millie's next movements, a twisting motion of her hands, as if turning an invisible mask upside down, followed by a quick wipe of her brow and a pointed look toward the town hall. "The phantom prankster," Clara breathed. "He's always been about masks and disguises, and slipping up just at the worst moment. Millie's showing us his signature." Harold nodded slowly, a spark of clarity igniting amidst the confusion. Millie was guiding them toward understanding the prankster's modus operandi not through words, but through the universal language of mime. The silent clues were absurd enough to be overlooked, yet deliberate enough to be unmistakable to those paying close attention. As Millie concluded her performance with a grand bow, the crowd erupted into applause, though many still exchanged puzzled glances. Before anyone could approach her, Millie vanished down a narrow, shadowed alleyway, her footsteps soundless on the cobblestones. After her, Harold said suddenly, determination replacing hesitation in his voice. Clara grinned, juggling a ball between her hands as they hurried after the mysterious mime. Sheriff Bill sighed loudly, shaking his head. "This town's gone mad," he muttered, but even he couldn't suppress the flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Following Millie's silent trail would not be easy. The mime's gestures were poetic puzzles, a delicate dance of clues wrapped in comedy and chaos. But for Harold, it was a welcome change from the slapstick disasters and conflicting testimonies that had so far peppered his investigation. As they disappeared into the alley, Harold's thoughts circled around the question lingering in the air. What was the phantom prankster truly trying to say through this pantomime? And could listening to the silence finally lead Jollyville back to its lost laughter? The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows, and with each step toward the unknown, Harold felt the town's heartbeat quicken. Somewhere in the dance of mime and mystery lay the key to unraveling the clown conspiracy, if only they could keep up. And so, with a notepad in one hand and a renewed sense of purpose, the mayor and his unlikely team plunged deeper into the silent chaos, where every gesture might be a clue and every smile a secret. The game was afoot, or rather, a foot in invisible shoes, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The sun hung low over Jollyville, casting long, golden shadows that stretched like lazy fingers across the town's cobblestone streets. Mayor Harold Bumblebee adjusted his short, round glasses, the rims slightly askew as usual, and glanced down the dusty road that led to the outskirts where the abandoned carnival grounds once throbbed with laughter and chaos. Beside him, Clara Tumbles bounced lightly on her heels, her bright red hair catching the sunlight and her colorful scarf fluttering like a banner of hope. "I swear, Harold," she said, juggling a small, shiny ball effortlessly, "if the clowns are anywhere, it's probably near here. This place reeks of old mischief." Harold sighed, his rumpled suit catching on a stray branch as they approached a twisted old oak tree. Beneath it sat the most unlikely relic, a small, rusted clown car, its polka-dotted paint faded but still unmistakably cheerful in its absurdity. The car looked like it had been swallowed by time, its tires flat and windows dusty. Yet for Harold, it was like finding a needle in a haystack, or rather, a squeaky rubber chicken in a haystack of nonsense. "Well," Harold muttered, pulling out his notepad, "let's see if this relic has any secrets to share." Clara knelt beside the car, brushing away a layer of leaves and dirt. Her fingers traced the chipped paint as she examined what once might have been a door handle. "Look at these," she said, pointing to a cluster of faded stickers and a small, almost hidden compartment near the dashboard. Harold's fingers trembled as he pried open the glove compartment. Inside, nestled among cobwebs and a faint scent of old leather, lay a stack of notes and a handful of bizarre props, a squirting flower, a deflated whoopee cushion, and a pair of oversized spectacles with one lens cracked. The notes were scrawled in looping handwriting, full of cryptic wordplay and symbols that seemed both nonsensical and tantalizingly meaningful. "This must be a treasure trove," Clara whispered, eyes wide with excitement. "If the phantom prankster left these, they might be the key to unraveling the whole mystery." Harold nodded, flipping through the papers carefully. His clumsy fingers caught on a small red button hidden beneath the glove compartment. Before he could stop himself, he pressed it. Instantly, the car erupted into life, though not in the way Harold expected. A chorus of squeaks, honks, and squawks burst forth as rubber chickens sprang from concealed compartments, whoopee cushions deflated with comic timing, and a shower of confetti exploded from the roof, drifting down like a ridiculous, colorful snowstorm. Nearby townsfolk, drawn by the sudden commotion, spilled into the street, their faces a blend of shock, laughter, and bewilderment.
Mayor Bumblebee!
Shouted Mrs. Higgledy from her storefront, clutching her shopping bag. Is this part of the investigation? Because it's the most fun I've had all week. Harold, cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but eyes twinkling, gave a sheepish shrug. Well, sometimes the clues come wrapped in a little kiosk. As the laughter settled and the townspeople's smiles grew, Clara bent over the scattered notes, her fingers deftly decoding the cryptic messages. She read aloud cautiously. When the jester hides, the mirror shatters. Only in chaos does truth emerge. What do you make of that, Harold? Harold scratched his head, the usual buzz of confusion swirling in his mind. Sounds like our phantom prankster is not just about mischief, but wants us to see something deeper. Maybe they're trying to force the town to face something we've all been ignoring. Clara nodded, her expression serious but hopeful. And this car? It's like a time capsule of their thoughts, their regrets, perhaps. The late afternoon faded into an orange twilight as they carefully collected the notes and props, their minds racing with new possibilities. The accidental prank had done more than embarrass the mayor. It had reignited the town's laughter and, more importantly, shed light on the shadowy figure behind the disappearances. As they walked back toward town, the confetti still fluttering in the evening breeze, Harold felt a strange mixture of hope and urgency. The mystery was far from solved, but with each chaotic step, the pieces were beginning to fit together like a slapstick puzzle demanding to be understood. "Clara," he said, adjusting his glasses, "I think we were closer than ever. But the phantom prankster isn't finished with us yet." She smiled, juggling the ball one last time before tucking it into her bag. "Bring on the chaos, Harold. We'll face it together." And for the first time in days, the town of Jollyville seemed ready to laugh again, even if that laughter was tinged with a little fear and a whole lot of absurdity. But as the shadows lengthened and the night crept in, a faint, twisted grin flickered in the darkness beyond the town's edge, promising that the next prank was already in motion. The morning sun filtered hesitantly through the grimy windows of Professor Piffle's workshop, a chaotic sanctuary nestled in a forgotten corner of Jollyville's oldest street. Mayor Harold Bumblebee adjusted his round spectacles, squinting as the door creaked open to reveal a world where time seemed to tick and whirl to its own peculiar rhythm. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lemon sherbet and aged parchment, mingling with the faint metallic tang of gears and springs. Clocks of every imaginable size and shape adorned the walls, their synchronized ticking a curious heartbeat to the room's madness. In one corner, a mechanical laughing flower emitted an eerie chuckle that danced between delight and disquiet. Professor Piffle, a man whose wild white hair seemed to have a life of its own, emerged from behind a towering pile of books and strange contraptions. His patchwork lab coat rustled as he hurried forward, spectacles perched precariously on the tip of his nose.
"Ah, Mayor Bumblebee!"
"Just in time to witness the marvel of my latest invention," he proclaimed, waving a gloved hand toward the giggling flower. Harold blinked, a mixture of amusement and bewilderment swirling in his eyes. "Professor, your workshop never ceases to surprise. What's this one supposed to do?" he asked, trying to sound as composed as possible despite a faint smile tugging at his lips. "It laughs," Piffle said simply, his voice quivering with excitement. "But not just any laugh. It's a mechanical mimicry of the nervous chuckle, an auditory riddle, if you will. Perfect suited to bewilder and unsettle, much like our elusive phantom prankster." Harold chuckled dryly. "Sounds like something that might backfire spectacularly in my hands."
"Indeed!"
Piffle exclaimed, clapping his hands. "But this brings me to my theory about the phantom. You see, this mysterious figure is not merely a prankster, but a man haunted by a past misstep, an old prank that went terribly wrong decades ago. One that fractured our jovial community." The mayor leaned in, curiosity sharpening his features. "Go on." "Years ago, the professor began, There was a legendary clone known for his spectacular pranks and heartwarming performances. But one fateful day, a prank involving a rigged pie and a secretly misplaced seltzer bottle spiraled out of control. The fallout was catastrophic: hurt feelings, broken friendships, and the mysterious clown vanished from the public eye, replaced by whispers and shadows. Harold nodded slowly, the pieces beginning to align in his mind. You believe the phantom prankster is that very clown, seeking some form of redemption or maybe revenge?
Precisely,
Piffle said, eyes gleaming. His disappearance of all clowns is a grand gesture, both a cry for attention and a challenge to the town's complacency. We being forced to confront our dependence on laughter as a balm for deeper fears. Just then, a sudden pop echoed through the room. A spring-loaded seltzer bottle attached to one of the professor's gadgets had misfired, dousing Harold in a spray of sticky liquid and scattering a cascade of colorful confetti. The mayor sputtered, blinking as the cold droplets dripped down his suit. Professor Piffle burst into laughter, infectious and hearty. Ah, the hazards of invention! But consider this: the chaos of a misfired prank can sometimes illuminate truths more clearly than careful planning. Harold couldn't help but join in the laughter, the tension momentarily dissolving amidst the confetti and silliness. Once order was restored, the professor shuffled to a cluttered desk and produced an aged, hand-drawn map. Its edges were tattered, and mysterious symbols dotted its surface, hinting at secret locations tied to the phantom's past escapades. Here, Piffle said, pressing the map into Harold's hands. These are places worth investigating: old haunts, forgotten hideouts, and perhaps clues to the man behind the mask. Harold studied the map thoughtfully. Thank you, Professor. This might just be the breakthrough we need. As he stepped out of the workshop, the hum of clocks faded behind him, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. The investigation was far from over, but with Piffle's eccentric wisdom lighting the way, Harold felt ready to face whatever absurdity lay ahead. Yet as he walked back through the streets of Jollyville, Harold couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper they delved, the stranger and more personal the mystery would become. The phantom prankster was not just a shadow on the town's laughter, but a reflection of its own fractured heart. And somewhere in the folds of history and humor, the truth awaited, ready to spring forth like one of Piffle's unpredictable inventions: unexpected, messy, and utterly unforgettable. With a deep breath, Harold prepared to follow the map's cryptic trail into the next chapter of Jollyville's most confounding and comical mystery. The bell above the door jingled merrily as Mayor Harold Bumblebee and Clara Tumbles stepped into Daisy McFizzle's joke shop, a small but riotously colorful emporium nestled on the corner of Jollyville's main street. The shop was a veritable treasure trove of all things prank-related. Shelves groaned under the weight of squirting flowers, stacks of rubber chickens lay in cheerful disarray, and walls were adorned with posters proclaiming the virtues of a well-timed pie to the face. A sudden chorus of hunks, whistles, and squeaks erupted as Harold's entrance triggered an elaborate array of prank devices. Clara caught a juggling ball tossed with expert precision by Daisy herself, whose eyes sparkled with infectious enthusiasm. Daisy was a whirlwind of energy, curly chestnut hair pulled into a high ponytail, her patchwork apron festooned with pins shaped like rubber chickens, squirting flowers, and a particularly cheeky whoopee cushion that seemed permanently attached to her hip.
Welcome, welcome!
Daisy exclaimed, her voice bright as a carnival collier.
You've come just in time!
I was testing out the latest batch of prank props. Care to try? Harold gave a hesitant smile, adjusting his round glasses as he surveyed the colorful chaos. Well, I suppose a bit of levity wouldn't hurt. We could all use some. His hand reached out, albeit clumsily, to press a whoopee cushion which promptly emitted a loud, embarrassingly realistic sound. Clara burst into laughter, and Harold's foot caught on a stray rubber chicken, causing him to stumble forward with a surprised yelp. Spry as ever, Mayor, Clara teased, steadying him with a quick grab of his arm. Daisy laughed, the sound like tinkling bells. Nothing like a good pratfall to keep you humble. Once the initial flurry of antics settled, the three gathered around a cluttered counter. Daisy pulled out an assortment of gadgets, mini seltzer bottles primed to squirt at the slightest touch, confetti poppers ready to explode in a burst of colors, and an ingenious little device that played a chorus of silly honks and whistles at the push of a button. These, Daisy declared, are your new best friends. Trust me, in a town like Jollyville, a well-placed prank can open more doors than a polite knock. Harold nodded thoughtfully, scribbling notes on his ever-present pad, though his fingers trembled slightly from a mix of excitement and nerves. I appreciate the morale boost, he admitted quietly. This investigation has been less than straightforward. Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We'll get through it, Harold. With Daisy's help and a little luck, maybe we can bring the clowns back. Daisy's eyes softened with empathy. I know it's been tough. Believe me, I've felt the sting of silence in this town. But laughter always finds a way back, even if it's just a cheeky squirt from a seltzer bottle. The mayor exhaled slowly, the weight of his responsibility momentarily lightened by the warmth radiating from the small shop. As they prepared to leave, Daisy pressed a small, hand-painted box into Harold's palm. For emergencies, she said with a wink. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows down the street. The bustling noise of the town had dimmed to a tense murmur, the absence of clownish chaos leaving an uneasy silence in its wake. Harold glanced back at the shop's bright window, the colors vivid against the encroaching dusk. Ready to face whatever comes next? Clara asked, her juggling ball now tucked under her arm. Harold adjusted his glasses, steeling himself. As ready as I'll ever be. Let's bring back the laughter. Together, they stepped into the lengthening shadows of Jollyville, the prize of Daisy Mafizzle's pranks tucked safely away, and a flicker of hope kindling amidst the growing unease. The investigation was far from over, but for the first time in days, Harold felt a spark of genuine optimism, and that, in Jollyville, was worth more than all the banana peels in the world. Yet, as the quiet streets swallowed their footsteps, a faint, mischievous giggle seemed to echo just beyond the corner. The phantom prankster was still at large, and his game was far from finished. The morning sun filtered through the cracked window of the old clown trailer, casting elongated shadows over peeling posters of juggling duos and slapstick spectacles from decades past. Clara Tumble sat cross-legged on a dusty trunk, her fingers idly tracing the faded signatures of clowns who had once brought endless laughter to Jollyville's cobbled streets. The trailer smelled of stale popcorn and a faint hint of peppermint, remnants of a carnival long gone but never forgotten. Outside, the occasional distant pop and squelch of a prank gone awry punctuated the quiet, reminders that the town's heart still beat in syncopated rhythms of chaos and charm. But inside, Clara wrestled with a far more silent struggle. Born to the legendary duo, Bobo and Lulu Tumbles, Clara grew up with laughter as the soundtrack of her childhood. Her parents' legacy was a towering shadow, one that wrapped itself around her shoulders like a too large clown coat. Every juggling ball she caught, every pratfall she attempted, felt like a test she might fail. Am I just a pale echo of them? She wondered, the question swirling in her mind like a juggling club in midair. Her thoughts were interrupted by a tentative knock. The door creaked open, and Mayor Harold Bumblebee, clutching his trusty notepad, stepped inside. "Clara," he began, his voice a mix of admiration and awkward hesitance. "I was hoping you might help me make sense of all this, the clowns, their factions, the strange clues." Clara smiled, pushing a stray lock of her bright red hair behind her ear. "Well, Harold, it's not just a circus act out there. There's history, rivalry, and a whole lot of feelings tangled up in those colorful shoes." They stepped outside, the air alive with the scent of freshly baked pies from Mrs. Dabble's bakery, and the faint buzz of townsfolk whispering about the missing clowns. In the town square, Clara began juggling a set of vibrant balls, her movements fluid and confident. See, the clown factions here aren't just about who can squirt the best seltzer or who wears the biggest shoes. It's about legacy, pride, and sometimes grudges that stretch back years. Harold scribbled notes, occasionally glancing up to catch the grace in Clara's performance. "You make it sound like a soap opera with red noses." Clara laughed, a sound as bright as the scarves fluttering around her neck. "Maybe it is. But it's also why the town needs us now more than ever. We have to unite them, or this silence will never end." Later, by the riverside where the water whispered secrets only the trees dared repeat, Harold and Clara found a rare moment of quiet. Clara's voice dropped to a softer timbre as she confessed, "Sometimes I feel like I'm juggling expectations instead of balls. My parents set the bar so high, and here I am, just trying not to trip over my own feet." Harold nodded, his eyes warm behind his round glasses. "Clara, you re-not them, and you shouldn't be. You're the spark this town needs, fresh, fearless, and fiercely you." The words settled between them like a gentle embrace, giving Clara the courage she'd been seeking. "Maybe it's time I stopped trying to fit their shoes and started making my own footprints." Inspired, Clara took to the town square once again, this time inviting the townspeople to join her impromptu juggling and laughter rally. What began as a tentative gathering quickly erupted into joyous chaos. Pies flew, laughter echoed, and even Sheriff Bill Grumble's usual scowl softened into a reluctant smile. The town's spirit, dulled by fear and uncertainty, sparkled anew under Clara's bright energy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, Harold scribbled his final note for the day: "Chaos isn't just disorder. It's the pulse of life here, and Clara, she's the rhythm we've been missing." But as the laughter faded into the evening, an uneasy thought lingered. The phantom prankster was still out there, weaving shadows between the jests. Could Clara's newfound confidence be the key to unraveling the mystery? Or would the town's fragile harmony slip through their fingers like juggling balls dropped too often? With a determined smile and a flick of her colorful scarf, Clara readied herself for whatever the next act would bring, knowing that in Jollyville, the show must go on no matter how absurd the script. The morning sun crept lazily over the crooked rooftops of Jollyville, casting long, wavering shadows across the town square. Sheriff Bill Grumble stood outside the town hall, his broad frame etched against the peeling white paint of the building like a statue of authority carved in grumpiness. His permanent frown deepened as he spotted Mayor Harold Bumblebee, the very picture of dishevelment, passionately waving a notepad while tripping spectacularly over a garden gnome. The gnome, a chipped ceramic figure with a missing nose, tumbled sideways with a clatter, but Harold caught himself, cheeks flushing a shade of crimson that rivaled Clara Tumble's vibrant scarves. "Harold," Bill grumbled, voice low and dry, "you were going to cause a riot before we even find the clowns." Harold adjusted his round glasses and offered a sheepish smile. "Order, Bill. In Jollyville, isn't that a bit like expecting a cat to juggle?" Bill's frown deepened, but a flicker of amusement twitched at the corner of his mouth before he quickly suppressed it. "I'm serious. We need rules, procedures. This..." He gestured vaguely at Harold's chaotic enthusiasm. "This slapstick approach isn't going to bring them back." Clara Tumbles, who had been juggling an orange ball nearby, paused mid-spin. "Bill, sometimes a little chaos is exactly what we need," she said, her voice ringing with optimism bright enough to light the dimmest day. The sheriff sighed, rubbing the back of his neck beneath his crooked badge. "I get it. The clowns are the spirit of this town. But without order, chaos just becomes, well, chaos." The three of them moved inside the town hall, where the meeting room was already filling with a mix of skeptical and hopeful townsfolk. The air buzzed with murmurs and sideways glances, each person weighed down by the absence of laughter that once filled the streets. Bill took his place at the head of the table, his broad shoulders squared, ready to impose some semblance of control. "Let's be clear," Bill began, voice firm but not unkind. "We need to keep this town safe and orderly. No more wild pranks that could hurt someone or make the town look like a circus gone wrong." Harold, clutching his ever-present notepad, nodded vigorously. "Absolutely. Safety first. But we can't forget that the clown's pranks are part of our identity. Maybe the answer lies in embracing that spirit responsibly." Bill's eyes narrowed. "Responsible pranks, that's a new one." Clara chimed in, "It's about balance. Remember the joy they brought, even in their mischief. We need to find that balance again." The debate swirled, voices rising and falling like a comedic symphony, Bill's pragmatism clashing with Harold's hopeful bumbling and Clara's infectious enthusiasm. The meeting ended with no clear resolution, but an unspoken understanding that their differing views were both necessary pieces of the puzzle. Later that evening, Bill retreated to his office, a modest room cluttered with faded wanted posters and a dusty radio that hummed softly in the background. As he sat behind his desk, his fingers idly played with a whoopee cushion, a relic from a prank long past. A rare smile softened his stern features as memories flickered. The first time a clown had squirted seltzer water down his sheriff's hat. The sound of laughter echoing in the streets, and even the occasional slip on a rogue banana peel. "Maybe I miss it more than I thought," he muttered to himself, the silence of the empty town pressing in around him. The next morning brought fresh chaos. Harold, ever determined, had devised a new plan involving a town-wide survey of prank spots, much to Bill's dismay. The sheriff imposed stricter rules, insisting on permits and safety checks, which slowed Harold's progress but forced him to approach the investigation with renewed creativity. Their interactions became a dance of comic timing, Harold's earnest bumbling met with Bill's gruff pragmatism, each inadvertently teaching the other. When Harold accidentally set off a concealed joy buzzer during one tense negotiation, Bill's stern face cracked into genuine laughter, much to Clara's delight. As the day faded into night, Bill stood by the window of the sheriff's office, gazing out at the empty streets of Jollyville. The faint sound of juggling balls bouncing echoed softly in the distance. A subtle reminder that beneath his gruff exterior beat a heart, as fond of the town's quirks as any clown's. "Maybe," he whispered, "there's room for a little chaos after all." But as the mystery deepened and the town's spirit teetered between hope and fear, Bill knew the real challenge lay ahead, finding the courage to embrace both order and disorder, for only then could Jollyville reclaim its laughter. And somewhere in the shadows, the phantom prankster watched, a twisted grin hidden beneath a painted mask, orchestrating the next act in this circus of chaos. The game was far from over, and the town's fate hung precariously on the edge of a whoopee cushion's deflation. What would happen when the balance between order and chaos finally tipped? Only time and a well-timed prank would tell. The morning sun cast long, jittery shadows across Jollyville's town square, but the usual clamor of laughter, honking horns, and slapstick chaos was conspicuously absent. In its place hung a heavy silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the nervous shifting of feet. Mayor Harold Bumblebee stood center stage beneath the fluttering bunting, his rumpled suit slightly more askew than usual, clutching his notepad like a lifeline. Around him, a restless crowd gathered, their faces a kaleidoscope of confusion, fear, and a desperate yearning for something familiar. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harold began, his voice cracking slightly as he cleared his throat, "I understand how unsettling this unprecedented silence is. But I assure you, we are doing everything possible to find our beloved clowns." A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd, a mix of skeptical whispers and hopeful nods. Mrs. Penelope Crumple, the bakery owner with a penchant for floral hats, crossed her arms tightly, her eyes darting to the empty lamp posts where colorful clown costumes now hung like ghosts of past parades. "It just ain't right," she muttered to her neighbor, Mr. Toddle, who nodded solemnly, clutching his weathered baseball cap. "Those clowns are the heart of this town. Without them, it feels like Jollyville's lost its soul. Harold jotted down notes hastily, the tip of his pen trembling as he tried to capture the mounting unease. Beside him, Clara Tumbles bounced on her heels, her bright red hair and colorful scarves a beacon of cheer amid the gloom. "We can't let the fear take hold," she whispered urgently. "People need to remember the joy the clowns brought, not just the silence they left behind." That afternoon, Harold and Clara made their way to the homes of several longtime residents, hoping to gather clues and soothe frayed nerves. In a cozy, cluttered living room, they found Mr. and Mrs. Haggerty, an elderly couple clutching faded photographs of a bygone era when clowns had been the town's pride and joy. "They were magic, Mrs. Haggerty said softly, her voice trembling. "Every summer, they'd put on shows that made even the grumpiest of us laugh until our bellies ached." Her husband nodded, his eyes misting over. "It's not just about tricks or jokes. It's about feeling alive, connected. Without them, the streets feel empty, like we were waiting for a punchline that never comes." Moved by their sentiment, Clara squeezed Harold's arm. "We have to bring that back." Meanwhile, Sheriff Bill Grumble paced outside Daisy Mafizzle's joke shop, his broad shoulders hunched beneath the weight of his badge and responsibility. The usually bustling shop was shuttered tight, the window display of squirting flowers and oversized glasses now gathering dust. Whispers floated through the air, rumors of sabotage, of rival clown factions gone too far, of some dark force at work. Bill's frown deepened as he listened to shopkeepers trade theories over hastily brewed coffee, and children eyed each other with wide, suspicious glances. "This town's better than this," Bill muttered to himself, his voice rough but resolute. "But fear breeds ugliness. We need to keep a level head." As dusk fell, the enigmatic Millie the mime took to the cobbled streets, her white face paint glowing softly in the twilight. With exaggerated gestures and silent pantomime, she depicted a narrative of loss and hope, her hands tracing the outline of a vanished clown, her eyes pleading for understanding. A small crowd gathered, laughter bubbling up amidst tears as Millie's performance wove a bittersweet tapestry of memory and resilience. Harold watched from a distance, struck by the silent strength Millie conveyed without uttering a single word. Back at the town hall, Harold convened a hastily assembled meeting of concerned citizens. The room buzzed with nervous energy, punctuated by Clara's steady optimism and Bill's grounded pragmatism. "We can't let this crisis define us," Harold declared, adjusting his glasses. "The clowns represent more than pranks, they symbolize our community's spirit. And I believe, with your help, we can find them and bring that spirit back." The crowd erupted into tentative applause, a fragile hope flickering amidst the shadows of doubt. Yet as the meeting adjourned, Harold couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the surface of nostalgia and fear lay something deeper, an undercurrent of suspicion and division that threatened to unravel the very fabric of Jollyville. Clara caught his gaze, her expression firm and unwavering. "We have to keep pushing, Harold. For the town, for the clowns, and for ourselves." Harold nodded, determination settling over him like a well-worn cape. "Then let's get to work." As the night deepened, the empty streets whispered secrets. And somewhere in the shadows, the phantom prankster watched and waited, the game far from over. The silence was no longer just absence, it was a challenge, a call to action, and the first act in a new, unpredictable chapter of Jollyville's story. And Harold Bumblebee, bumbling but brave, was ready to answer it. The mayor's office was a chaotic symphony of scattered papers, half-sipped cups of coffee, and the occasional squeak from a neglected whoopee cushion that stubbornly refused to stay silent. Clara Tumbles sat at the heart of it all, her fiery hair a wild contrast against the dull grey walls, her fingers nimbly weaving through a forest of cryptic notes and faded clown caricatures. The dim light cast long shadows that danced like prankster spirits as Clara's eyes darted back and forth, piecing together the enigmatic puzzle left behind by the phantom prankster. "Harold," she called out without looking up, voice steady but tinged with excitement, I think I've found a pattern. These aren't just random pranks or childish jests. There's a message hidden in the Chaos Manifesto, almost. Outside the office, Mayor Harold Bumblebee shuffled nervously, the rumpled fabric of his suit catching briefly on a stray whoopee cushion. He winced as it deflated beneath his foot, a sound as embarrassing as it was emblematic of his predicament. He paced in small circles, the muffled sounds of Clara's frantic whispering and occasional triumphant laughter filtering through the door. A manifesto. Harold muttered to himself, adjusting his round glasses from a prankster. That sounds serious. Inside, Clara's fingers traced a series of symbols and riddles, their shapes curving and twisting like the seltzer spray of a well-aimed joke. "Look here," she said, pointing to a cluster of cryptic notes pinned under a faded photo of a clown juggling flaming torches. These phrases, these codes, they reference classic clone lore, but twisted. It's like the Phantom wants us to question everything about our laughter, our comfort with chaos. Harold leaned in, squinting at the tangled script. "You mean the disappearances aren't just a prank? There's a point to all this madness?" Clara nodded, eyes sparkling. "Exactly. The Phantom prankster isn't just playing games. He's forcing the town to confront its blind reliance on the clowns. To think about what laughter really means when it's tangled with fear." The room seemed to pulse with a new energy, the air thick with the scent of old paper and the faint tang of seltzer. Clara pulled out a battered radio from under a pile of papers and fiddled with the dial. Static hissed, then a voice crackled through, distorted, yet unmistakably playful. "In laughter lies power, but also peril," Clara read aloud, her voice trembling slightly. "To laugh without thought is to ignore the shadows beneath the smile." Harold's brow furrowed. A warning, or a confession? Suddenly the window rattled, a subtle but unmistakable sign that the Phantom prankster was near. A shadow flickered just beyond the glass, a twisted grin briefly illuminated by the street lamp's glow. The faint hunk of a horn, warped and eerie, echoed into the night. "He's watching," whispered Harold, a mixture of dread and determination tightening his chest. "And he's not done yet." Clara smiled, juggling ball rolling across the floor as she stood. "Then we have to be ready. Because this isn't just about finding the clowns. It's about understanding why they left and what it means for all of us." A new chapter in Jollyville's strange saga had begun, one where every prank, every laugh, carried the weight of unspoken truths. And as Harold and Clara prepared to delve deeper into the chaos, they knew the line between comedy and catastrophe had never been thinner. Outside, the town held its breath, caught between the echoes of vanished laughter and the unsettling promise of the Phantom prankster's next move. Somewhere in the shadows, the game continued, madcap, mysterious, and utterly unpredictable. "Ready for the next act?" Clara asked, eyes gleaming. Harold adjusted his glasses and nodded, a rare smile breaking through his usual clumsy demeanor. After all, in Jollyville, the show must go on. The night air in Jollyville carried with it an unusual stillness, a quiet so profound it seemed to swallow even the faintest whisper of the wind. Mayor Harold Bumblebee stood beneath the flickering glow of the street lamp, his rumpled suit catching the pale light as he squinted into the shadows. He was clutching his trusty notepad, a lifeline amidst the chaos, and trying not to trip over the uneven cobblestones that had been the bane of his evening escapades. A sudden movement caught his eye. Behind the lamppost, a shadow flickered, elongated and twisted like a carnival mirror's reflection. Harold's heart skipped a beat, not from fear, but from the peculiar thrill that accompanied every clue in this bizarre case. The figure's grin was unmistakable, twisted into a grotesque smile beneath the eerie sheen of a painted mask. Though the Phantom prankster had eluded capture, tonight he had revealed himself in a fleeting glimpse. "Well, Ilby," Harold muttered, adjusting his round glasses, "you're more dramatic than a custard pie in a Shakespeare play." He jotted down hurried notes, the scratch of his pen barely audible over the distant echo of a whoopee cushion deflating somewhere down the alleyway. It was as if the town itself was holding its breath, caught between laughter and dread. The next morning, Harold found himself in Clara Tumble's cluttered study, a riot of color amidst the town's grey uncertainty. Clara, ever the optimist, had gathered an assortment of photographs, old clown memorabilia, and faded posters of Jollyville's once celebrated circus troupe. The walls were adorned with pictures of smiling faces, painted noses, and the kind of joy that seemed almost foreign now. "Look at this," Clara said, handing Harold a photo of a young man in full clown regalia, his eyes twinkling behind the makeup. This was the phantom prankster before the mask. The real name was Felix Featherbottom. Harold frowned thoughtfully, tracing the outline of the man's painted smile with his finger. A clown with a past. I always thought clowns were just, well, clowns. But this Felix seems to have a story. Clara nodded. There was a scandal years ago, a prank gone wrong that changed everything. Felix disappeared after that, but the town never stopped talking about him. Harold's mind raced, weaving together the fragments of gossip, the cryptic notes left at prank scenes, and now this poignant history. Could it be that his pranks now are a cry for redemption? Or maybe a way to remind us of the laughter we've lost? Before he could ponder further, a firm knock interrupted their musings. Sheriff Bill Grumble entered, his broad frame filling the doorway, a crooked badge glinting dully on his chest. "Mayor," Bill grumbled, folding his arms. "This chasing shadows business has to stop. The town needs order, not more chaos." Harold met his gaze evenly, though a twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed a hint of sarcasm. "Order, Sheriff, is just chaos with a fancy hat. Besides, these shadows might be the key to finding our missing clowns." Bill sighed, the tension between them as thick as the fog that sometimes rolled in from the nearby hills. "Just don't let your enthusiasm lead us into another mess." A sudden, unmistakable sound punctuated the moment. A loud paft echoed from beneath Bill's feet as a whoopee cushion deflated. Both men stared down, then exchanged a reluctant chuckle. The absurdity of it all was a reminder that even amidst conflict, Jollyville's spirit refused to be tamed. Later that evening, Harold found himself alone in the town square, the shadows long and strange beneath the silver gaze of the moon. Spread out before him was the latest clue, a painted mask, left deliberately at the scene of a prank. The mask's twisted grin seemed almost alive, whispering secrets Harold was only beginning to understand. He knelt, running a finger along the mask's cracked surface. "Felix," he murmured softly, "what are you trying to tell us?" The wind stirred, carrying with it the faintest echo of distant laughter, joy mingled with sorrow, chaos entwined with hope. Harold rose slowly, feeling the weight of the town's future pressing on his shoulders. In that moment, he realized that the phantom prankster was not merely a foe to be caught, but a mirror reflecting Jollyville's own fears and desires. Understanding Felix's pain and motives would be the key, not just to solving the mystery, but to restoring the laughter that bound the town together. With renewed determination, Harold tucked the mask carefully into his bag. Tomorrow, the investigation would take a new turn. For beneath the masks and shadows, the heart of Jollyville's chaos beat strong, and Harold intended to listen. As he walked home, the distant sounds of a clown horn honking and the soft clatter of juggling balls reminded him that the town's story was far from over. The night held its breath, waiting for the next act, and Harold Bumblebee was ready to take center stage. Jollyville's town square had never seen such a spectacle. The sun hung lazily in the sky, casting a warm glow over the gathering storm of brightly colored costumes, oversized shoes, and impossibly large red noses. The two clown factions, long divided by petty jealousies and competing slapstick styles, had come face to face in an impromptu showdown that threatened to turn the town's peculiar silence into outright pandemonium. Mayor Harold Bumblebee stood smack in the middle of the chaos, his perpetually rumpled suit looking even more disheveled than usual. His round glasses caught the sunlight as he squinted, clutching his trusty notepad like a lifebuoy in a sea of custard pies and honking horns. Harold's mouth twitched in a half-smile, half-grimace. "All right, everyone," he began, his voice a mixture of determined authority and mild panic. "Let's try to keep this, civil. We're all here because we want to find the missing clowns, yes." A chorus of hunks and whistles answered him, but it was far from a harmonious agreement. On one side, the Spangles, decked out in glittering sequins and star-patterned bow ties, pointed accusing fingers and waved squirting flowers with theatrical flair. On the other, the Bumbles, proudly sporting polka dots and oversized suspenders, retorted with exaggerated pantomimes and slapstick pratfalls that involved more banana peels than anyone thought physically possible. The air buzzed with tension and anticipation, the scent of popcorn mingling with the faintest hint of seltzer. Harold's knees buckled slightly as a well-aimed custard pie sailed past his ear, splattering harmlessly against a lamppost. "Right," he muttered, scribbling quickly. "Let's hear it then. Why all this fuss?" From the Spangles' corner, a tall clown with a painted teardrop under one eye stepped forward, voice dripping with melodramatic sorrow. "The Bumbles have been sabotaging our routines for months, exploding whoopee cushions at the wrong moments, switching our juggling pins for rubber chickens. It's an insult to the art." From the Bumbles' side, a stout, red-nosed clown with a permanently mischievous grin retorted, "And the Spangles think they're the only ones who can make people laugh. They've been stealing our best pranks and hogging the spotlight." Harold blinked, struggling to piece together the volley of accusations. It was like trying to decode a slapstick Morse code. Clara Tumbles, his ever-optimistic assistant with her fiery red hair and colorful scarves, stepped up beside him. Balancing 3 rubber chickens with practiced ease, she raised a hand, calling for calm. "Everyone," Clara said, her voice clear and warm amid the chaos. "We were all part of Jollyville's unique spirit. The pranks, the laughter, the chaos, they are our town's heartbeat. But right now, we need to remember why we're here. The clowns are missing. This rivalry, as entertaining as it might be, isn't helping us find them." The factions paused, if only for a moment, the tension momentarily diffused by Clara's earnest plea. Harold noticed the flickers of doubt and regret in their painted eyes, the way their hands stopped their frantic gestures. Just then, Sheriff Bill Grumble, tall and broad-shouldered with his permanent frown and crooked badge, lumbered into the fray. His voice was gruff but carried a surprising hint of humor. "All right, enough clowning around," he growled, stepping between the factions. "If we were going to sort this mess out, we need order." But even Bill's stern presence couldn't prevent the inevitable pratfall. As he took a firm step forward, his boot caught on a rogu banana peel, sending him sprawling spectacularly onto the cobblestones. For a heart-stopping moment, the crowd was silent, then laughter erupted, a tidal wave of amused relief that swept through the square. Harold chuckled, rubbing his aching ribs. "See, even the sheriff can't resist a good pratfall," he quipped. The laughter worked like a bomb. The clowns exchanged sheepish looks, the absurdity of their feud laid bare by the slapstick spectacle. Slowly, the factions began to mingle, sharing stories of past pranks and misadventures, their rivalries now tinged with nostalgia rather than bitterness. Yet, nestled in the shadow of a nearby alley, a figure watched the scene unfold. The phantom prankster, obscured by the half-light and his painted mask, leaned back against the brick wall, his twisted grin barely visible beneath the flickering street lamp. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of satisfaction and something darker, perhaps regret, or something yet unspoken. As the townsfolk started to unite, the phantom's lips curled into a whisper. "Let the game continue," he murmured, vanishing into the night. Back in the square, Harold took a deep breath, the weight of the day settling on his shoulders. The rivalry was out in the open now, a tangled mess of emotions and misunderstandings, but at least it was no longer hidden. And with that revelation came hope that the clowns could come home, and that Jollyville could reclaim its laughter. "All right," Harold said, lifting his notepad with renewed resolve, "let's figure out what comes next." Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that chaos might be our town's middle name, but it's also the key to finding the truth. And with that, the crowd began to disperse, the first tentative steps toward reconciliation echoing through the cobbled streets. Even as the night whispered promises of more surprises to come, the day began innocuously enough, with Harold Bumblebee shuffling into his cluttered office, his perpetually rumpled suit barely dodging the swinging doorframe. His trusty notepad dangled precariously from a pen clenched between his teeth, a habit he hadn't quite shaken since his schoolteacher days. The air was thick with anticipation, or perhaps that was just the lingering scent of seltzer from yesterday's mishap. Harold's fingers trembled slightly as they brushed against a curious object resting atop his desk, a large red button, conspicuously out of place amid the usual piles of paperwork and half-eaten donuts. Clara Tumbles, ever bright-eyed and impossibly nimble, had found it nestled inside the abandoned clown car the day before. Now it sat there like a ticking bomb of mischief. "You don't suppose we should press it?" Harold muttered, half to himself, half to Clara, who was perched on the edge of his desk, juggling a trio of colorful balls with practiced ease. "Only one way to find out." Clara grinned, her fingers never missing a beat. With a deep breath and more caution than confidence, Harold's index finger descended and landed squarely on the button. The moment his fingertip made contact, a loud, comical honk echoed through the office, followed by a burst of confetti cannons erupting in the town square outside. Through the window, a kaleidoscope of colors rained down, swirling in the morning light like a bizarre, celebratory snowstorm. "Oh no," Harold whispered, eyes wide as the first blasts of chaos unfurled beyond the glass. And then the pranks began in earnest. Whoopee cushions deflated simultaneously in the local diner, their unmistakable sounds causing a ripple of startled gasps and reluctant chuckles from patrons mid-coffee sip. A chain reaction of squirting seltzer bottles erupted from hidden corners, drenching unsuspecting shopkeepers, who responded with a mixture of indignation and grudging amusement. Sheriff Bill Grumble was the next to enter the scene, his broad shoulders filling the doorway as he stepped gingerly over a strategically placed banana peel. His expression was a perfect balance of exasperation and reluctant amusement, especially after an errant seltzer spray caught him unexpectedly, his habitual frown faltering into a rueful grin. "Mayor," Sheriff Bill grumbled, "this better not be one of your harebrained schemes." "I assure you, Bill," Harold replied, attempting dignity as he wiped confetti from his glasses, "this was entirely accidental." Meanwhile, Clara's sharp eyes had caught something amidst the swirling confetti. Kneeling to scoop up a handful, she noticed an unusual pattern in the colored paper, an arrangement too deliberate to be random. Her fingers traced the shapes like a cryptologist deciphering an ancient script. "Harold, look at this," she called out, her voice tinged with excitement. "It's a message." A code. Harold leaned over, squinting at the intricate shapes and colors. The confetti formed a series of symbols and letters, a playful yet deliberate puzzle left by the phantom prankster. It was their first tangible clue in days, a breadcrumb trail leading deeper into the mystery. As the town roared with laughter and groans from the endless pranks, an uneasy undercurrent pulsed beneath the chaos. The line between joy and fear blurred with every burst of confetti and every unexpected squirt of seltzer. Yet, in this pandemonium, Harold felt a spark of hope. The phantom prankster was speaking to them in riddles and jokes, in chaos and color. "We're closer than ever," Harold said, determination hardening his voice. "Now we just have to follow the trail before the next prank finds us." Clara nodded, juggling balls momentarily forgotten in her hands. "And maybe next time, let's try not to set off the whole town." Harold chuckled, already tripping over a rogue banana peel as the confetti storm continued to dance around them. No promises. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over Jollyville's confetti-strewn streets, the town teetered on the edge of hysteria and hilarity. Somewhere in the shadows, the phantom prankster watched, the twisted grin hidden beneath a painted mask, knowing the game was far from over. Harold's accidental prank had turned the investigation inside out, but it had also illuminated a path forward, a path paved with laughter, chaos, and the unyielding spirit of a town unwilling to be silenced. And so, with the echoes of laughter ringing in his ears, and the scent of seltzer lingering in the air, Harold prepared for the next move in this absurd, uproarious dance of shadows and smiles. The moon hung low over Jollyville, casting a silvery glow that made the town square look like the stage for some grand theatrical farce. Flickering neon signs buzzed softly, their erratic light matching the jittery energy that crackled in the air. Mayor Harold Bumblebee adjusted his rumpled suit, his iconic round glasses reflecting the kaleidoscope of colors from the scattered prank props strewn about the cobblestones. Slippery banana peels, deflated whoopee cushions, and a suspiciously large rubber chicken lying in wait. Across the square, the phantom prankster emerged from the shadows like a specter of mischief incarnate. His painted mask twisted into a grin that was equal parts menacing and mischievous, a dark silhouette outlined by the murky fog rolling in. The air was thick with anticipation and the faint scent of seltzer water. This was it, the final showdown, the moment where chaos and order would collide in a spectacle no one in Jollyville would forget. "Well, Mayor Bumblebee," the phantom's voice echoed, dripping with theatrical flair, "I must say you've been quite the persistent pest. But tonight, the joke's on you." Harold swallowed nervously, clutching his notepad like a shield. "Phantom prankster," he began, voice steadier than he felt, "this town needs its laughter. Your silence has been deafening. Why all this chaos?" The phantom chuckled, a sound like a squeaky horn mixed with a sinister whisper. "Because, dear Harold, sometimes a little chaos is the only way to wake a town from complacency. You all depend too much on the clowns to do the laughing for you. It's time you found your own joy." Before Harold could respond, a sudden burst of confetti bombs exploded between them, raining down glitter and streamers. Harold instinctively ducked, only to slip on a conveniently placed banana peel, arms flailing wildly as he crashed into a stack of oversized rubber pies. The sound of splattering cream echoed like a symphony of slapstick disaster. From the sidelines, Clara Tumbles weaved through the mayhem, her bright red hair a vivid flame against the chaos. Juggling glowing balls with practiced ease, she cheered, "Come on, Harold!" "Remember, laughter is our weapon." Harold grinned despite the sticky mess. "Right, Clara, time to turn the tables." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a squirting flower, pressing it so that a jet of water shot towards the phantom, who dodged with a nimble leap worthy of a circus acrobat. The battle quickly devolved into a carnival of pratfalls and gags, whoopee cushions triggered at the worst moments, oversized shoes causing comical stumbles, and a barrage of joy buzzers sparking surprise yelps. Sheriff Bill Grumble, ever the gruff guardian of order, tried to intervene, his stern voice booming, "Enough of this nonsense!" But his effort was thwarted when he stepped on a whoopee cushion hidden beneath his boot. The sudden noise startled him so much that he nearly toppled over, breaking into an involuntary, begrudging chuckle. "See," Clara called out, "even the sheriff can't resist the cows." As the duel wore on, the phantom's mask slipped momentarily, revealing a glimpse of wary eyes beneath the painted grin. Harold noticed the flicker of pain, the hint of a man burdened by exclusion and longing. "You're not just a prankster," Harold said, panting from the exertion but steady now. "You're someone who wants to be seen, to belong." The phantom paused, the carnival cacophony fading into a poignant silence broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. Slowly, his mask was removed, revealing a face marked by years of laughter and tears, a former clown who had once been beloved, now hidden behind the guise of mischief. "I only wanted to remind you," he said softly, "that laughter isn't just a trick, it's a bond." Harold extended a hand, and after a moment's hesitation, the phantom shook it, the tension dissolving like mist under morning sun. Together, they turned to the crowd of townsfolk who had gathered, caught between fear and curiosity. With a nod from the phantom, the missing clowns reappeared, emerging from hidden corners and alleyways, their colorful costumes brighter than ever. The town erupted in joyous applause, the air thick with renewed energy and hope. Harold, still sticky from pie cream but beaming, realized that the chaos had not been the enemy, it was the very heart of Jollyville's spirit. As the night unfolded into a riotous celebration filled with laughter, music, and playful pranks, Harold caught Clara's eye and shared a knowing smile. The town was whole again, united by the absurdity that had threatened to divide it. And in the distance, the phantom prankster vanished into the night, his mission complete, but his presence forever a reminder that sometimes the greatest order comes from embracing a little chaos. With the final echo of laughter ringing through the streets, Harold couldn't help but wonder what prank-filled adventure awaited them next, because in Jollyville, the joke was never truly over. The moonlit showdown had not only settled the mystery, but had also woven a new chapter in the town's history, where laughter and fear danced hand in hand, and where chaos was both a challenge and a cure. Harold's journey from bumbling mayor to clever problem solver had culminated in a revelation that the absurdity of life, with all its pratfalls and surprises, was the glue that held Jollyville together. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky with strokes of pink and gold, the mayor looked out over the town square, now vibrant and alive. The clowns were back, the people smiling, and the spirit of Jollyville gleaming brighter than any neon sign. Harold tucked his notepad into his pocket, ready for whatever whimsical chaos the future might bring. The morning sun rose gently over the rooftops of Jollyville, casting a golden hue that seemed almost too serene for a town recently plunged into such uproarious turmoil. But today was different. Today, the streets thrummed with a familiar, if riotous, energy. Colorful flags fluttered in the breeze, and the unmistakable honk of a honking horn pierced the air, heralding the triumphant return of the town's beloved prankster clowns. Mayor Harold Bumblebee stood on the steps of the town hall, his rumpled suit slightly less disheveled than usual, a small but proud smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. His round glasses caught the light as he surveyed the scene before him, a parade of clowns of every stripe and spot, juggling balls, squirting seltzer, and tripping over their own oversized shoes in a joyous celebration that was quintessentially Jollyville. The townsfolk lined the streets, their faces alight with laughter and relief. Children darted between the clown antics, squealing with delight as a particularly daring clown balanced a custard pie precariously on his nose before flinging it high into the air. The pie sailed in a perfect arc, landing with a splat on the grumpy face of an elderly man who promptly burst into laughter himself, the sound infectious and pure. Harold cleared his throat, clutching his trusty notepad, the pages slightly crumpled from hours of frantic scribbling and accidental spills of lemonade. The crowd hushed expectantly as he raised a hand, a gesture that was both official and awkward, much like Harold himself. "Ladies and gentlemen, clowns and pranksters," he began, his voice carrying unevenly at first, but growing steadier with each word. "We gather not just to celebrate the return of our town's most colorful citizens, but to acknowledge the chaos and laughter that binds us together." A ripple of applause swept through the crowd, accompanied by the sudden and perfectly timed blast of a whoopee cushion from the front row, eliciting a collective chuckle. "This past ordeal," Harold continued, "has taught me more than any school or seminar ever could. I have learned that chaos is not our enemy, it is the dance partner of order. Laughter is not merely noise. It is the melody that carries us through uncertainty." Behind him, Clara Tumbles bounced up beside him, her bright red hair catching stray beams of sunlight, her colorful scarves fluttering like flags caught in a gentle storm. She caught Harold's eye and gave him a thumbs up, her infectious optimism a beacon of the spirit that had carried them both through the investigation. After the speech, the crowd erupted once more, the clowns leading the charge down the street in a frenzied parade of juggling, pratfalls, and honking noses. Harold found himself swept up in the reverie, his earlier trepidation dissolving into genuine delight. He caught sight of Sheriff Bill Grumble standing a little off to the side, arms crossed and lips twitching suspiciously. But then, to Harold's surprise, the sheriff's frown softened, and a small red clown nose appeared pinned comically to his uniform. The reluctant smile that followed was as warm as the morning sun. Later, backstage in the colorful chaos of juggling balls, squirting flowers, and oversized shoes, Harold and Clara shared a quiet moment. The noise of the celebration faded into the background as they exchanged a knowing smile. "We did it," Clara said softly, juggling a bright yellow ball with effortless grace. Harold nodded, feeling the weight of the journey lift from his shoulders. "I never thought I'd say this, but I think I'm starting to understand why this town needs its clowns. They're not just about the pranks or the laughter, they're about reminding us to not take life too seriously." Clara tossed him a ball, which he fumbled with a clumsy grin. Maybe chaos isn't so bad after all. As the sun climbed higher, the parade continued, winding through the streets of Jollyville like a living, breathing embodiment of the town's spirit. The clown's laughter echoed off the walls, a jubilant soundtrack to a community reborn. Mayor Harold Bumblebee, once the hapless bureaucrat, now stood as a symbol of resilience and unity. He had learned that sometimes the greatest order comes from embracing a bit of delightful disorder. And as Jollyville's laughter rang out into the afternoon, one thing was certain: the town's next prank-filled chapter was just beginning. But as Harold gazed at the horizon, a faint shadow flickered in the corner of his eye, a reminder that in a town like Jollyville, even the quietest moments can be the calm before the next storm of hilarity. And with that thought, Harold couldn't help but smile. After all, in Jollyville, the show must go on. Jollyville awoke that morning as it had countless times before, with the sun casting a golden glow over its pastel-painted rooftops, and the faint, familiar sound of honking horns and laughter threading through the air. But this was no ordinary dawn, it was a dawn of return. The clowns, once vanished into thin air, had come back, bringing with them a whirlwind of color, noise, and joyful pandemonium that transformed the sleepy town into a festival of mirth and mischief. Mayor Harold Bumblebee stood at the edge of the town square, his short stature barely visible amid the bustling crowd. His round glasses perched precariously on his nose, and his perpetually rumpled suit seemed to have gathered a new layer of crumples overnight, as if the very fabric of his clothing had absorbed the chaotic energy that now pulsed through Jollyville. Clutched tightly in his hand was his notepad, pages filled with scribbles, sketches, and the occasional doodle of a banana peel. The square was a kaleidoscope of vibrant costumes and painted faces. Clowns juggled brightly colored balls, their laughter ringing clear and infectious. Whoopee cushions punctuated the air with well-timed blasts and the scent of popcorn, cotton candy. And something distinctly reminiscent of rubber chickens mingled in the breeze. Above it all, banners fluttered, each emblazoned with cheerful slogans: "Welcome back, Jollyville's finest," and "Chaos is our kind of order." Harold's eyes scanned the crowd until they found Clara Tumbles, her bright red hair a beacon amid the sea of faces. She was effortlessly juggling 3 balls, her colorful scarves trailing behind her like ribbons caught in a gentle wind. Spotting Harold, she grinned and tossed a ball his way, which he caught with a surprised yelp. "You're getting better," Clara teased, a sparkle in her eyes. "Maybe by next year you'll be ready for the big leagues." Harold chuckled, adjusting his glasses. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm still mastering the art of not tripping over my own feet." Sheriff Bill Grumble stood nearby, arms crossed and brow furrowed, watching the festivities with a mixture of skepticism and reluctant amusement. The permanent frown that usually carved lines across his broad face softened ever so slightly as a balloon animal bounced harmlessly off his shoulder, eliciting a rare chuckle from the gruff lawman. "Don't let it go to your head, Bill," Clara called over, catching his eye. "You're secretly a fan." Bill grumbled something unintelligible, but the twinkle in his eye betrayed his words. He reached down and picked up a squeaky rubber chicken, squeezing it until it let out a high-pitched squawk. The crowd erupted in laughter, and for a moment, the sheriff's stern demeanor melted into the joyous chaos around him. At the center of the square, a makeshift stage had been erected, adorned with twinkling fairy lights and a banner reading Mayor's speech. Harold cleared his throat, the cacophony of honks, whistles, and laughter fading into expectant silence. He adjusted his rumpled suit and shuffled his notes before stepping up to the microphone. "Good morning, Jollyville," he began, voice wavering slightly but gaining strength with each word. "I must say, it's quite surreal standing here today, not just because there are fewer banana peels to slip on, but because we've come through something extraordinary together." The crowd leaned in, hanging on his every word. When our beloved clowns disappeared, it felt as though the very heart of our town had gone silent. But today, with laughter restored and chaos embraced, I see that the spirit of Jollyville is stronger than ever. He paused, glancing at Clara, Sheriff Bill, and the returning clowns who nodded encouragingly. "We've learned that chaos and laughter aren't just random acts of silliness, they're the glue that holds us together. They remind us not to take ourselves too seriously, to find joy even in the unexpected, and to face fear with a smile." A cheer erupted, balloons soaring into the sky, and Harold allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. As the speech concluded, the festivities resumed with renewed vigor. Harold found himself wandering toward Daisy Mafizzle's joke shop, where the air was thick with the scent of bubble gum and the faint pop of whoopee cushions. Daisy greeted him with a flourish, handing over a bright red clown nose. "For you, Mayor Bumblebee," she said with a wink. "Every hero needs a proper disguise." He placed the nose on, earning a delighted laugh from Clara, who was nearby practicing a new juggling routine. "See, you're a natural," she said, tossing him another juggling ball. Harold caught it, feeling a warmth spread through him, not just from the laughter around, but from the sense of belonging that had blossomed during the long ordeal. A shadow passed nearby, and Harold glanced up to see Millie the mime, offering an exaggerated bow and a silent thumbs up. The day stretched on with pranks and laughter, the town's beloved chaos restored. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow, Harold stood beside Clara and Sheriff Bill, watching the clowns perform a grand finale of juggling flaming torches, pie-throwing contests, and synchronized honking. "You know," Bill said gruffly, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad the clowns are back." Harold smiled, feeling the weight of his journey lift. "Neither did I," he admitted, "but I've learned that a little chaos is exactly what we need to keep life interesting, and laughter is the best way to face it." As the crowd roared with applause and the night sky filled with fireworks shaped like rubber chickens and squirting flowers, Harold knew that Jollyville's story was far from over. There would be more pranks, more mishaps, and certainly more banana peels to slip on, but now he was ready. After all, in a town like Jollyville, the next chapter was always just a laugh away.